Today, I'll show you how to set up Claude Code and MCPs for Supabase and GitHub to eliminate hours of manual work in your coding projects. Instead of manually configuring databases, Claude Code handles everything automatically through chat, creating Supabase tables and GitHub issues instantly. I'm using these tools on a real SaaS project that I'm building live on this channel, so you'll see exactly how much time they save. If you're tired of learning AI tools without practical real-world applications, this video and YouTube channel are for you. All right, so let's get started. Here's our agenda today, and before we install the MCP servers into Claude Code for Supabase and GitHub, I'm going to go through a couple of additional steps here just to walk you through a real use case here so that this isn't just an imaginary project. I built this YouTube analytics and title and thumbnail generator for the no-code architects community. You can do a search on a YouTube video that you're about to publish. You can gather popular titles and thumbnails for that same topic, and then you can use this tool to generate titles. I'll jump over to a video and grab the description. You put the description of your video. It generates all of these new YouTube titles for your new video using your description, but using popular titles that are working on YouTube. And you can do the same thing for generating new thumbnails. Now, this was built out on Airtable as the backend database, and I just got to thinking that this tool is actually pretty cool and I'd love to build it into a SaaS. And so I need to migrate it from Airtable to Supabase, and there will be a bunch of other tasks that I need to do in order to get that live as well. And so I want to walk through the transition from a no code to a code project as a real example of how to use these MCP servers. So the first thing that I need to do is to create a new GitHub project. I originally created this repository here, which is for the no code version with Airtable. It does also use N8N as well as the backend. This will eventually be converted to code as well. And I do have this currently running on my computer here. So the first thing I'm going to do is come to GitHub and I'm going to create a new repository. I'm going to call this thumbnail magic. I'm going to go ahead and make it private, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it blank for now. I'll create that repository, and I'm going through this exercise here because there could be any number of situations where you need to do this yourself. If you want to copy an existing open source project, or you created a no-code project and you want to turn it into a SaaS, this is the way to do it. So here we have an empty repository. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I'm going to jump to my terminal. I went ahead there and stopped the existing program from running. I'm going to do cd ... go back to my main directory. I'm going to do a git clone and then the new repository. Now I'm going to head to my terminal where I have the existing application running locally on my computer. That's what I'm running here. I'm just accessing this application locally on my computer. And now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this application. Now what I want to do here is to copy everything that's in this existing repository into my new repository. And the reason why I want to do that is because I don't want to mess up the existing repository that is being used by the no-code architects by this new SaaS that I'm building for myself. And again, you might run into this situation where you're using somebody else's repository and you want to clone it, you want to create your own, and then you want to copy it over into your new repository. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up Visual Studio. I'm going to open up the existing project, which is the no-code YouTube analytics SaaS project. Just going to open up the README here. And now I'm going to open up a Claude Code window, close this other one, just get this situated here. So now what I'm going to use Claude Code to help me do is to update this folder so that it points to my new repository instead of the old one. So whenever you install a repository, it has this concept called an origin, because this is actually installed on your local computer. But when you check the code in to GitHub, there is a remote origin that connects it from your local computer to an actual repository. And so currently this directory is connected to the no-code YouTube analytics SaaS GitHub repository, but we want to change it to thumbnail magic and then upload all of that code here so that we could start working with the project in this repository instead of the old one. Now, you might not know this, but you can actually use Claude Code to do this. Now, you could always just go to Claude, and I'm going to use this new dictation software called Whisperflow to do it. I can just hit a couple keys and it will dictate everything that I say. How do I update the remote origin in a GitHub repository? So you can just ask Claude, and it's going to give you the command to do so. Right here, you can see. But I could also use Claude Code to do it as well. I'll go ahead and use Whisperflow again. Please update the remote origin for this repository. And then I'm going to copy in the GitHub repository URL here. And then Claude Code can go ahead and do that for us. And then we can check in all of this code into the new repository, and then we'll be good to go. Then we can create the new Supabase project, then we can install the MCPs, and then we can go ahead and finish out the video. All right, so we've updated the origin. Now we actually have to push the code up to the new repository. I do recommend you asking Claude how to do these different things. How do I commit code to a remote repository? But again, Claude Code can also help you do that as well. Please push all of the code in this directory to the new remote origin. Whisperflow is pretty cool. All right, so let's just check and see if the code is there. If I do a refresh, we should see our project here. Cool. So essentially we just made a copy of our old repository in the new one in a very simple way. So we created the new GitHub project. Let's create our new Supabase project as well. New project. We'll call this thumbnail magic. We'll create a password and we'll go ahead and create that new project. So now we have a new empty project where we can set up authentication in our database. And the first thing that we're going to do is just simply replicate the features that we had in the old version, which connected to the Airtable database. So we're just going to swap out the database from Airtable to Supabase, and then we'll create the GitHub issues that will track all of the tasks that we need to completely convert the project from a no code to a SaaS that has users and can accept credit cards and all of that stuff. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to like and subscribe. It tells me what type of content you want more of. Now let's go ahead and install our MCPs. So I gathered these ahead of time, and these are the Claude commands to install the MCPs into Claude Code. So for Supabase, you're gonna need your access token and also the project ID. So I'm gonna jump over into Supabase. I'm gonna jump over to the project settings. Here we have our project ID. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy that, and I'll duplicate this here so I still have the template, and we'll replace this here with the actual project ID. Now we just need to get the access token. So to get the personal access token, we'll come up to our settings here, account preferences, access tokens, and I'm gonna go ahead and create a new token for this project, which is the thumbnail magic, generate token, copy this into our command here. Now we should be able to simply take this and copy it, jump back to my terminal, and I'm in the directory here. I should probably rename this actually to move, just so we don't get confused. I'm gonna rename this to thumbnail magic, jump back into thumbnail magic here. Now I can just cut and paste this directly into the terminal. Now you do wanna make sure you add this to this specific project because these are project specific MCPs. So it added the MCP server for Supabase. I can go into Claude. It's asking me if I trust this folder. We can say yes, and then I can do /MCP, and we can see we have the Supabase MCP server that is connected. Perfect. So now we just need to set up our MCP for GitHub, and then we'll be off and running. So now I'm gonna jump over to GitHub. I'm gonna come down to settings, scroll down to developer settings, gonna go to personal access tokens, fine-grained tokens. Now I already set one of these up previously, and I just wanted to look and remind myself what we need to give access to: metadata, code issues, and pull requests. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a new token, thumbnail magic, resource owner. We'll do only selected repositories. We'll pick thumbnail magic, and then we just need to pick the specific permissions. You can always change this later, but we're gonna want access to issues. That way we can track all the tasks that we want to work on. Metadata has to be on. Pull requests, we'll allow that as well, and that should be good. We'll go ahead and generate that token. Now I'm gonna copy this, jump back to Notion. We'll duplicate this as well, put in our access token right here. And now I should be able to take this back to our command line, exit out of Claude Code, paste this here. All right, it added the new GitHub server. So now if I type Claude to get back into Claude Code and do MCP, looks like it failed to connect to GitHub. So let's see what happened there. Actually, I did have this issue once before, and I think I just had the wrong GitHub server here. Instead of this server here, we need to use this one here. So I will copy this, jump back out of Claude Code, and then we'll re-add this new one here, back into Claude /MCP. And there we go, we have both GitHub and Supabase connected. So I should be able to say something like, please create a test GitHub issue for this particular project using the MCP. So now if we jump back to our repository here we're back in thumbnail magic, and we can see we have our test issue that we just created from Claude Code. So now what we can do is we can use Claude Code to actually generate all of our project plans and track all of those issues here in GitHub for us. And then also because we have the Supabase MCP connected as well, we'll be able to have it automatically generate the database for us using the Airtable database as a template. And we won't have to actually come into Supabase, build the database ourselves over in the interface here. So again, from Claude Code, we should be able to say, also, please create a test table inside of Supabase just to verify the connection is working using the MCP. Again, using the Whisperflow dictation app is pretty cool as well. So we'll go ahead and let it proceed. I am seeing an error here. Can't apply migration in read-only mode. Maybe it only has read-only access. Oh, I think if I look at my MCP command here, we used read-only. So I need to take that out. So we'll take this, jump back, let's exit out, paste this in. So now we can actually write, jump back to Claude. Help us create a test table in Supabase using the MCP. It's doing a list tables as it doesn't really need to do that. All right, it was able to create that table, verify, and it's gonna verify, and we can verify as well. Jump back over to, yeah, there we see our test table. Okay, so let's just jump back into Claude Code here. It just wanted to verify that the table was there, but then I want to remove that issue and the test table from GitHub and Supabase so we can get started. I'm just gonna cancel out. Please remove the test issue from GitHub and also the test database table from Supabase. Please also remove the test issue created in GitHub. So now we're back to no tables, and in GitHub, it has closed that issue. So now we can get into the actual migration of our no-code project that uses Airtable to recreate everything in Supabase and reconnect everything. And that'll be the phase one of our project. But let's go ahead and exit out of the command line version of Claude Code and jump into Visual Studio. Let's close this Claude Code window so that it reloads and has our MCPs. I do need to close this project because I changed the folder. So we just need to reopen it in the new folder, thumbnail magic, create a Claude Code window. Let's just make sure it has access to the MCPs. Perfect. All right, great. So now let's go ahead and create a project plan to convert this no-code project into a full SaaS. And the first step being replacing the no-code Airtable database with a traditional database in Supabase. All right, so I'm just going to use Whisperflow to help me map all this out, and then we'll get going. I have this existing project here that is running Next.js as the front end. It is using Airtable as a database. What the program does is it helps analyze YouTube analytics on the YouTube API. In order to achieve that, we do have an N8N backend. You can refer to the .env local file for the connection information for Airtable and also N8N. We need to convert this from a no-code project using Airtable and eventually to replace N8N as the backend to code as well. But the first thing that we're going to do is convert this project from an Airtable database to a Supabase project. I've already created the Supabase project, so that's ready to go. We simply need to create the new database and also update the code so that it pulls from the new database. And then we'll also need to do a little bit of back-end work on N8N to create the rows in Supabase instead of Airtable. But first, we need to create the table and get the front end to pull from that data. And then we'll go ahead and update the N8N server as well. After that, I want to do some additional work. I want to update the navigation of the SaaS application. I want to add user authentication. Actually, I want to add user authentication before we change the navigation. So I want to add user authentication and row level security in the Supabase database. I want to use Supabase authentication. Just want to be clear about that. I want to update the navigation. I want to then make a bunch of database changes, make it more robust to support more features. I want to update the search capabilities of the YouTube analytics. And I also want to be able to create different types of content than we are currently. After that, I want to run through the whole application and clean it up and get ready for production. The only thing that I want to do first is replace the Airtable database. So that's task number one, but I just wanted to give you an idea of where we're going. Please take everything that I've said and create a complete plan. Let me review that plan. And then I would like you to create GitHub issues for each of those items. But before you do that, let's just create the plan. Let me review it. And then from there, we'll take the next step. So I've dictated all that into the terminal here. Let's go ahead and add that. It's pretty nice just being able to talk all that out instead of trying to type it. So it's first analyzing the current project and the structure and the Airtable integration. We'll just give it some time to review everything. All right, so it has a plan here. So phase 1, database migration, database schema setup, front-end migration, and the N8N backend. Cool. Then phase 2, authentication, database and features enhancement, and production readiness. I did forget to add the payment as well. All right, looks good. Go ahead and create GitHub issues for each of these different phases. In phase 5, make sure to add a line item for adding payment through PayPal. Make one issue, one GitHub issue per phase, and then all of the details that you have outlined here should go into each of the GitHub issues. So for instance, in phase 5, the issue should be titled production readiness, and then you should have 5.1, 5.2, 5.3 as an additional description inside of that specific issue, also including the Stripe integration for payment plans. Go ahead and create those GitHub issues now. So this is pretty cool. So typically you can do all of your planning here in Claude Code. You can have it create the plan and work through it. However, I have noticed that if you ever get into a situation where you close the window, it forgets everything that you were trying to do. So this is a way where you can keep the context of your plan in an external system, and then you can work through it later. So let's jump over to GitHub and just see if everything's being created right now. So we have phase 1, database migration, and then all of the information there. Awesome. Phase 2, phase 3, now it's got to do 4 and 5. It's really here where you can see the power of these MCP servers. There's been a lot of hype around MCP, but this is where I think it really shines, is just being able to connect all these different APIs together and allow the AI to actually use them to your advantage so that you don't have to do all this work. Creating all of these issues, creating all of the databases that we need to create in order to do this, it's very time consuming. All right, cool. So now we've got all of our GitHub issues created. We can just verify that. Awesome. Now, if we lost our Claude Code window here for any given reason, we could just have it look at the GitHub issues, and then we could start working through them without having to redo all of the research we just did before and duplicate all of that work. All right, great. Let's go ahead and get started with phase 1 and replace the Airtable database to Supabase. You have all of the instructions in the GitHub issue. Go ahead and pull that issue down, and let's get started on that particular task. Let me know if you have any questions, or if you need me to do anything. You're definitely going to need my help when we get to N8N. In order to test the Supabase database, you might need to add a test row, just so when we open up the videos tab, it is able to pull some data. I'll let you think that through, and if you need my help, just let me know. So it's going to pull down issue 2 to remember the plan. So it's going to install the Supabase dependencies for everything. These are the libraries that the Next.js app needs in order to connect to Supabase. And by the way, if you do want to see the original project, make sure to jump into the No Code Architects community. I have the full creation of the original project there inside. All right, so it wants to go ahead and create the original table for our app. So it created the table. Let's go see if we have that information in Supabase. All right, here's our videos table. Perfect. It wants to put in a test entry. Now there's a few differences with Airtable and how it stores images in the table. We'll have to work through a few of those discrepancies as we go here. All right, it wants to create our new files. If you hit Shift Tab, it'll go into auto accept edits, and it will just go ahead and make these edits without you having to approve each one. You can see it's changing the code from Airtable to Supabase. So it's noticing here what it doesn't need to change and what it does. So here it's using the Supabase MCP again to create the tables and then also to get the project URL for the settings. My guess is it's going to update the env file for that and take out the Airtable information here. Yep, see it's about to update the env file. Cool, so now we have the Supabase configuration in here instead of the legacy Airtable configuration. All right, it says it's ready. Instead of running the test here inside Claude Code, I do like to run this from the terminal myself. I'm gonna go ahead and do npm run dev, see if we run into any issues. It says it's working. Let's just reload our app here. Wow, okay. So now it's pulling from Supabase instead of Airtable, and we have our test entry here. Perfect. All right, so now if we look at Supabase, we should be able to see the data. We have our test record in here. So now all we need to do now is to update our backend N8N automation to instead create the new records in Supabase instead of Airtable. So we don't really need to change anything else except for that one thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump back to our analytics here, I'm going to go do a search. Just do a search on N8N. This should trigger our backend here. See that coming through. And it shouldn't have any issues adding that to our Airtable database. Just like that. Except what I want to do is I'm going to now copy this specific entry back into the editor so that we have all of the items and everything to add to Supabase. All right, so we'll go ahead and create a row. And now we need to add a connection to this new project here, Thumbnail Magic. So I'm going to come here, create new credentials. We need to grab the host. We'll come to the project overview, scroll down. We've got our project URL here. We'll copy that, bring that to our host here. Then we get the service role secret. If you're ever curious about these different connections, feel free to take a look at the docs. It's going to open up and show you right where to get these different items here. Go to the project settings. We'll go to API keys. And here we have the service role. We'll reveal that, copy it, add that here. Go ahead and save. Connection tested successfully. That's good news. So resource row operation create. Then we got to select the table. This should show us our videos defined below each column. And so now we just need to add all of the different fields. So we want the title, and then we just need to map that back from our HTTP request from the YouTube API, the same way we did for Airtable. Title, let's just add all these now. Title, thumbnail, channel, views, duration, publish date, video ID, video URL. And I believe the created at and the updated at are internal columns for Supabase, just to track when the row was created or updated. So thumbnail, drag in the thumbnail URL, channel, drag in the channel title, views, got the view count, we've got the duration here, and then the URL is just the URL plus the ID. So we can just copy that, make it an expression, and that should be everything that we need. I'll delete this column here. And let's go ahead and execute the step. Invalid syntax for type timestamp. So that likely relates to the Supabase table that we were just talking about, the created at and the updated, which are these values here for timestamp. And so what I'm going to do here is, instead of me having to figure this out, I'm going to ask Claude Code if it can update the created at and the updated at columns to be automatic so that I don't have to actually set them myself. Let's see if it can do that. Are you able to update the Supabase database created at and updated at to be dynamic so that I don't need to set them myself? So the created at should be just now. That should be triggered when the database row is created, and then the updated at should be now whenever that row is updated. Is that possible to do dynamically instead of me having to set it manually? So it says, yes, it can do that. So it's going to update the column definition to figure that out automatically. All right. So it looks like it set it up to be a automatic trigger. It's going to do a test record just to see. All right. So now it's just going to make sure that it works. So I think one of the coolest parts about AI is just that sometimes you don't even know what it can or can't do. So it's good to explore. It created this because of what Airtable had, and Airtable was doing it for us. But when it created the new tables, it was forcing us to add these values here instead of doing it automatically. So now if I come back to Supabase and run this, we probably shouldn't get that error, although we are still getting the error here. So I'm just going to work with it a little bit. I'm still noticing that when I insert the row from N8N, it's giving me an error saying that the timestamp is empty, which makes me think that it can't be created without adding that in there. Let me know what you think, what might be going on there. And then I'm going to paste in the error that I'm getting. I do want to just make sure I'm not adding the timestamps. Oh, publish date. I did forget to add that. Published at. Let me add that here. That could have been the one that was actually creating the issue, not the other ones. Let's execute. See, there we go. So I don't really need to run this. And now we should have the new rows in our video here. Perfect. Awesome. And we are missing a thumbnail here, but that's just because it was a test video. Awesome. I'm super excited to turn this into a SaaS that I can actually use myself and actually charge people to use. I think this is going to be a really useful tool for people to do YouTube analytics, see the titles and thumbnails that are actually working, and then being able to use these to fine tune your own YouTube channel when you post content. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this because I'm not having an issue now. And now I can go ahead and say, everything seems to be working. Can you go ahead and close phase 1 in GitHub issue number 2? And if you want, you can go ahead and select yes, number 2 here so that it doesn't ask you every time. And there is another setting that allows you to update Claude Code so it doesn't ask you so many questions. I'll cover that in another video. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more. All right, let's see if it actually closed the issue in GitHub. Refresh. Perfect. So now we can move on to phase 2. Now, if you want to get access to a SaaS framework that you can download, like you see on this video, make sure to jump into the Vibe and Coders. It's an engaged group of people. Everyone here is building out their SaaS and helping each other. We've got support calls every week and a place to meet all the members. I'd love to see you inside the community. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.